Have you ever had the thought or a nagging suspicion that your partner doesn't care as much in the relationship as you? This can be one of the stories that we tell ourselves that really does not help our relationship at all. Hey everyone, I'm Sonia, and welcome to my channel where I strive to give you tips about your relationship and your attachment style to help you heal and to make your lives and relationships the most fulfilling they can be. And I am open to one-on-one coaching, so you can check that out in the description box below if you just need a little more help and support along your journey. And I'm also starting a newsletter, so I will put that link down below as well, so you can receive occasional content and offers. And when you do sign up for that, you will receive a free PDF with my checklist of what to ask yourself if you are feeling unfulfilled in your relationship. So I'm starting this occasional series, starting with today's video, that is stories we tell ourselves, because stories we tell ourselves, otherwise known as limiting beliefs, can wreak havoc on our relationships, and really unnecessarily so. So today the story we're going to tackle, the limiting belief we're going to tackle, is when we tell ourselves that the other person, perhaps our partner in a relationship, could be a different relationship too, when we tell ourselves that that person doesn't care. So there is almost always something else going on. And I'm going to give you some examples. And, along the way, you might notice that some of it sounds a bit unhealthy in terms of how the dynamic and interactions go. And, it's always possible in a given relationship that something will stay as an issue and maybe not get worked out and the relationship will end. But you won't know if it can be resolved until it's out in the open. And often it is solvable. So first I'm going to talk about some counterexamples so we can kind of frame this and understand and see how this can often not be true, that the other person doesn't care about us or care as much about us as we do about them. And then I'm going to give you some steps for what to do about it. So number one possibility when you think the other person doesn't care or doesn't care as much as you in the relationship is, for an example, in a case where they are not noticing that you're upset or something like that, is that they simply just don't have a clue. They don't have a clue what you want. They don't have a clue of what you're feeling. Maybe you're hiding it more than you realize. Or maybe they're just really distracted with something going on with themselves and they just do not have a clue. Now, it can be nice to say people should just be their very best selves all the time and know what's going on with us. But it's not going to be true a lot of the time, right? It isn't true for us if we're really honest with ourselves towards the other person either. We'll notice the times that we, are caring, but that's often when we are in the state where we're not distracted, and we're not going to notice ourselves the times when we're distracted and don't notice what's going on with them. So that's one possibility. They just don't know. They are in the dark. They're ignorant about the whole thing. And you have all these thoughts about what's going on and what's happening, and they just are completely in the dark. Here's another possibility. Maybe they think you don't want them to ask you about it. So it could be that they are the type of person who feels very private or has a lot of hard time being vulnerable, or likes to sort of take time to themselves when they are feeling upset. And so there's like a lot of different ways this could look depending on the other person. But it could be true that they actually think that you don't want to be approached, for example, about something that you seem upset about. And, maybe you're even giving off that clue. Like if you're feeling upset that they're not approaching you on it, you could inadvertently be giving them body language that then is making them feel like you don't want them to approach, like if you're a little mad at them about it. And then a third possibility, there's plenty more out there, but I'm just going to talk about three possibilities today as the counterexamples for why it very well may not be true that someone in a relationship with you doesn't care as much as you do. Kind of has to do with what I just talked about, where you may be giving off like a "I'm mad at you" vibes, and then that makes them think you don't want them to approach. Is maybe there's some real resentment there. Maybe it's not simply about what you think it's about, whatever the issue is, or whatever you'd like them to approach you about, or whatever you're seeing as non-caring. Maybe there's some other resentment piece going on that actually needs to get up to get aired. Okay, so what can you do? What can you do about having a belief that someone in a relationship with you just doesn't care? And again, this isn't about making sure that a relationship will go on no matter what happens at all. It's just simply about the fact that you need to air this out and sort of see what's happening. And most of the time it is solvable, and it's really about something else, and it's not that they don't care about you. So what can you do if you think a person in a relationship with you doesn't care about you or doesn't care as much about you as you do about them? So first, try to catch this thought or limiting belief. A lot of our thoughts are sort of like semi-conscious or more on the subconscious level. So try to catch it when you think it. A clue often will be that you feel negatively towards the person, right? And so that might be a time to examine, hey, what am I thinking here? What's coming up for me? Or if you're feeling upset, when you interact with them. Okay, the second thing to do if you are concerned that someone in a relationship with you doesn't care as much, once you've realized that that's your thought, is to run it through what you know about the person, realizing that maybe you don't know everything about them, first of all. Everyone's somewhat a mystery forever to us. We can't completely know everyone fully, which is kind of a beautiful thing. At the same time, we can keep knowing them more and more deeply. But let's say you know quite a bit about them. Are they dismissive avoidant, for example? That would definitely affect, for example, whether they are thinking as much that you want them to approach if they're feeling badly, because they are less likely to be vulnerable themselves about things. And just taking it through that very general question of, would they themselves want what it is that you're wanting that's making you think that they don't care about you? That's kind of the really big general question. And underlying it, of course, is this realization that comes as you do that process. We know it on sort of a conscious level, but we know it much more deeply when we ask this question and realize this is they are not you. So the most important thing to realize, even if you're not quite sure like what they would want in the given situation, is it's probably going to be at least somewhat different from what you want or from how you're perceiving everything. And so then finally, the third step that's really better to undertake after you've had the awareness that you have this thought that the other person isn't caring for you as much as you do for them. And after you've run it through that they're a different person and they could potentially want something completely different in the situation and be seeing it completely differently or be unaware of it, is to then do the communication. And the reason this is important and has to be a step is because often when we have this kind of feeling that they don't care as much for us, we don't want to say it. It's super vulnerable to say it and to bring it up. And it's, all wrapped up in painful feelings. But it's really essential that you do communicate. And it's important to realize going into that as a caveat that it may take several communications. They're not expecting, right? They're in an unprivileged position compared to you of not knowing any of this is going on potentially, or even if they do know, they don't know you're going to, at a given moment, bring it up for a conversation. So sometimes it's not always possible, for feeling in the moment. Sometimes it can be appropriate, I think, to try to have the conversation in the moment when the feelings are there and we're feeling the vulnerability. Sometimes people will suggest, putting it to a time that's better. And that's certainly true if you're pretty sure it's not a good time for the other person to try to do that. But whether you bring it up and are able to start talking about it right away or not, knowing that it's going to be a process, an ongoing process of sharing this with them and helping them to understand what it is you need, because it's really something that you either need or are hoping or longing for from the relationship or from them that you're trying to ask for. So again, those 3 steps for if you're feeling like someone in a relationship with you doesn't care as much as you do are to catch it. It's a limiting belief. Number 2, to really understand that the other person is different from you and you don't necessarily know what's going on from their side of things. They may be completely ignorant of the situation. They may just think that it's something you don't want to talk about, and there can be a myriad of other reasons. And then to communicate, understanding that it's really about you being vulnerable and sharing how you're feeling, not blaming the other person, but just helping to share so that they can understand you more deeply. And then from there, the 2 of you can go forward and figure out what to do about it, knowing that it will be a conversation that you probably have multiple times. So hopefully that was helpful. Let me know in the comments if you have further questions or suggestions for other content for these videos. And thank you so much for watching.